Are you ready? The Kornelia Stephanie Show. Wake up to love, your call to action. Join Kornelia as she empowers others to live heaven on earth. Kornelia teaches listeners how to be the authority over yourself, embracing your inner guru. Feel yourself uplifted into limitless expansion, integrating ease and grace in a changing world. This show will cover topics such as unconditional love, your physical body, how to be in extraordinary relationships, create financial and emotional wealth, embracing entrepreneurship in the new earth.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Kornelia Stephanie Show. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here with you today. I am with my co-host here, Christine Padovan. She's back. Hi, Christine.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Oh, not too bad. Not too bad.
Good. It's good to have you. Let me just let the audience know a little bit about you. That you're the founder. Christine Padovan is the founder of the Paladina International and is an author, media host, healer, teacher, speaker, entrepreneur. This lady wears many hats, and she brought with her today the topic of the show that we're going to be talking about, and that is mental health issues that people are dealing with. And I think it's so perfect that you're bringing that, because I see so many people struggling with it right now, people dealing with depression and anxiety. And I know that you're helping people in your personal work, in your sessions, and how you're helping them deal with the physical ailments that some of them may be experiencing. We can go into some of those because I'm seeing it too. And I've only seen it recently in men, and they've been younger men, actually. So that pattern has showed itself to me. But we're talking about mental health issues from injury, illness, drug use, et cetera, and resolving those. And then what if even, one of the mental health issues, if, like, let's just say you're a drinker and you're doing a lot of drinking, alcohol drinking, and that's showing up where all of a sudden now you can't be doing that anymore, like drinking the way you used to, because that's one of the things I'm seeing for people. Despair over current world events. Oh my goodness, that's a good one, right? Because many people are really triggered by the current world events. And then we have our own sadness, our own angers that we're dealing with, our own childhood issues that may be coming up to the surface right now, helping us to see it so that we can make peace with it and heal it and release it and let it go. So thank you for bringing that topic.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and you and I are kind of in that same, what do you call it, wavelength, if so to speak, because I'm seeing it too. I mean, everybody does. I mean, what's very interesting is on my other job right now that I'm doing as a health insurance agent for the Affordable Care Act plans through a family-owned insurance company here in Florida, and I'm getting these calls, right? As we do, fielding these calls coming in, and so many people. And you hit it right on the head. So many very young people that I am speaking to on the phone across the nation, doesn't matter where they are, right? Who are on all this medication for anxiety, for depression. And and occasionally, I might, and that's how I found out in certain instances, whether they had some sort of, say, it was a COVID shot or a new flu shot, or it was something different, right? But so many people, and again, part of it, as you were talking about, how much news is out there that is always focused on the negative. And of course, when you're seeing that constant barrage that's in front of you, and then if you're being coupled with having this extra layer that you may not be aware of, say, physical toxicity in the body, whether it's, like you said, drug use, alcohol, all of that, these horrible, obviously problematic vaccines, so to speak, that have these heavy metals and other issues with them, that just combats the problem. And so, yeah, it's very disheartening to see that. And of course, as you know, the drug manufacturers, I'm sure, are very gleeful that they can be prescribing more antidepressants, more anti-anxiety drugs, and it's not good for the body, as you know. But what's very hopeful is that more people, especially with a show like yourself, your show is great for this, and with what I do, is more people are becoming aware that, is it, am I really this upset because I didn't get that promotion, or am I being, I'm not really a bad person, I'm not really, you know things are really not as bad as some people say. And trying to bring more awareness that, is it a physical issue? And if it is, like you were just saying, somebody's aware, oh, I can't, I know, here I have a great story on that. I was dating this gentleman when I was in the DC area working as an IT engineer, and Irish background, loved to go drinking with the guys, and he could go pretty much all night when he was in his 20s, you know, on what do you call it? A bender, with drinking a bunch of alcohol. And I kept up with him over the years. And when he got into his 30s, he was saying to me, oh, I can't do those all-nighters anymore. I can't wake up early and be fresh as a daisy after a night like that. And realizing, I really can't subject myself, that way, physically, and I need to say, hey, I need to do more healthy things to stay healthy mentally, physically, and emotionally. So yeah,
I mean, I can see that. I mean, like if I look at where I was 30 years ago and with my addictions that I was dealing with back then and my all-nighters or whatever that I was doing, I could get away with it back then in doing that because at that point in time, we were not evolving at the fast pace that we are evolving today. And so we weren't being blasted by the CMEs and the solar flares that are coming through, hitting our physical bodies. We weren't ready yet as a collective to really up level into higher vibrational ways of living and being, and really looking at what our core issues are and looking at those core issues, what they really are. We were still at the point back then where we could numb things up and cover things up and not talk about things. But that's not the way of the world today. Today, we have to, the world is our evolution, our human evolution is aligned with us rising higher into our creator being status that we are, creator beings that we are, galactic citizens that we are. We're not victims only when we haven't become conscious of it's our movie, it's our energy, it's our, our contribution. And how do we want to affect the world today? So if you want to still carry on and you want to still, be drinking every single night and be part of that, then that's one thing. But that's not in alignment with the new earth where we're going, because it's just not going to fit.
No, it doesn't. And more people, as you pointed out, Cornelia, are kind of waking up to the fact that we're not just a lowly human being. We are, and as people are seeing how government entities, like these 3D government entities, and like say big pharma and the medical industry, and how they control people, right? And are not doing healing. Like a doctor to me is not exactly a healer if they're just going to throw a medication at you for your, your anxiety or your problem. It's not looking at the root cause. And more people are waking up to that fact that, I don't need to be, like that smoking ad or that drinking ad that you see, people partying. It's like, I had a drink last night. It didn't really do, you know what I mean? It didn't do me any favors, right? And I didn't get that cute guy or cute girl I was hitting on, and they weren't impressed. So people are kind of saying, I don't, there's got to be something more. There is more to us than just doing, say, a 9-to-5 job. And yeah, collectively, as you see, yes, we've had this, especially this Lions Gate, and as you know, Cornelia, this is an 888 year. 2024, 2 + 2 + 4 = 8. It's an 888 year. And and these solar flares have been tremendous. I mean, I kind of still am integrating all this energy and power coming through. And I'm sure you have also, you wake up you've had great sleep, but you're still waking up tired, right? It's just crazy. And these amazing aurora borealis coming down further and further south. Of course, that's also to inspire us. Isn't it interesting? It's not only to wake us up, to show that we are definitely much more than just this 3D physical being scraping out an existence.
Yeah.
We're much more than that.
Yeah, absolutely. I always like to talk about it in terms of we are moving into higher vibrational ways of living and being, where before we lived in the third dimension, where fear lives, where wars exist, and all the various different lower human being stuff, limitations, all the things, fear, doubt, all those things in the third dimension. But the earth herself is ascending into a higher vibrational way of living and being. And we are also, our bodies is made of the earth. We are also, so we're taking our physical body, ascending up into that higher vibrational consciousness. And so we're bringing the densest part of ourselves, our physical body, with us. And so if we do more dense things in our physical daily physical reality life, dense things that lower our vibration, then we're going to have to work even harder, because I can tell, even for myself, when I have one beer, how that is going to affect me even the next day. That is really, it definitely, I can tell the difference. So I think, knowing that's what we're dealing with, we can make better choices. And I think right now, the mental health that you're talking about, the mental health that people are experiencing, it's really, I think it's going to get even more intense, and it's going to get more crazy out there when you think about the mental health, people losing their minds, like literally losing their minds. And it's gonna get more that way. There's nothing, it's basically like on the ascension level, on us moving higher in evolving in physical vibration, it's happening. And there's nothing that can be done about it. That is happening. And thankfully so. We want that. We want that, but we need the tools. So I want to, talk about what is it that a person can do when they're having those anxious thoughts that you were talking about, anxiety.
The biggest thing is to shut out the news. I mean, that I said that even years ago as a child to my mom. And this is back when news was still being objective, but again, news is still sensational. Any of these news stations, it's been like this for eons, right? And she'd be reading about some fire that a whole family was killed in, or this thing or that thing, and whatever was happening locally. And then, of course, nationally at the time, Vietnam War and all this other stuff happening. And she's very sensitive. And she'd get, just so upset. Oh, this is terrible, blah, 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 blah. And I said, why are you watching the news? I said, why do we keep turning the news on during dinner time? And you're doing it maybe for weather and keep up with what's going on. But at the same time, I said, but you get us so upset. I said, don't watch the news then. I said, there's no point. Because if you can't, I guess, compartmentalize and understand, okay, but if I do this kind of good stuff and understand that there are 1,001 good deeds and miraculous, amazing stuff that happens to one bad news event. And if more people understood that, and you talk about that, it's like, this is just a snippet to want to get ratings and capture the person's attention and make them think everything is doom and gloom. So that's one of the things I always talk about is, you can kind of read little snippets here and there. You can understand what's going on in the world without watching, even 10 minutes of news. You can read a little news blurb. You know exactly what's going on. That's all you need, right? But that's big. That is a big proponent in not getting immersed in negative news. And of course, we're, very close to election, time. So that there's going to be just more of that just coming out. And so that's one of the things I always tell people. The other thing is, yes, there is so much. There's environmental toxins, that's all in the news. There's all the chemical additives being, sprayed on fruit and vegetables, all of this stuff. There is, of course, intentional stuff. And there's also accidental, like the wildfire. I mean, well, there's some controversy on that too. But sometimes Mother Nature, volcanoes erupting, wildfires going on. These are all natural elements that create, some air pollution, groundwater, grounded water pollution, all of that. So the other thing I do go over with people is having to keep a natural method of keeping those toxins out of you. And we've talked about that, especially now with what's going on with the COVID shots, and we've got the proof of heavy metals in those. And then the other chemical things that are going on in all these shots as well. So I'm always encouraging people, I said, to get on glutathione, get on activated charcoal, do these things, add this to your daily supplement list to keep all of that moving out of you. And it's been tremendous. I have one person who has been suffering terrible depression. And she said she knew when she got the shots, she said, I felt like I was being poisoned. And I said, you hit it right on the head. I said, you were absolutely correct. Your intuition was spot on. Only a month. And she said, I feel so much better. I lost the 30 pounds I never thought I'd lose. My cholesterol is the best it's been in 10 years. And, because I feel all this stuff coming out of me. And she said, the only thing keeping my depression in place is that she's in a current negative family situation where she has to, live with family members right now that are not exactly hot, raising their consciousness like she has. So she says that if I could just handle that, if I could just get them to be, then my depression would completely go away. But then, there's that other element too. And Kornelia, you can talk more about that, I think, about how have you dealt with, say, a negative family member or friend? What's your suggestion on that?
Well, I just want to speak, thank you for asking that question, but I just want to speak a little bit more about the anxiety piece, because I, as a grief coach, as an empowerment coach myself, I support people in releasing anxiety and various different things. even recently, this one person that I mentor, she went to a traditional counselor out in the system. And
Mhm.
she was telling me, she says, I'm still dealing with my anxiety. I'm still dealing with my anxiety. I'm still dealing. And so my first question to her was, what are you anxious about? What are you anxious about? And then allowing her to reveal to herself, anxious about, not going to have enough money. I'm anxious. I'm not going to be able to show up. I'm anxious. I'm not. But to bring these things up and out and get them acknowledged instead of in the traditional counseling, taking the medication, um, uh, calling it my anxiety. I am like that, and really bringing it up and out because there is something here for you to work with. There's something here for you to work with. So let's bring these things up and out, and let's even write them down so you can see them. Look at that. Look at that. Okay. And then, is this really real? Is it real that you are going to run out? Is it really real that you are not going to be able to show up? Are you showing up right now? Do you feel safe right now? Are you running out right now? Let's get this looked at. Even one of my other clients who used to have, what do you call that? Panic disorders.
Mhm.
Panic disorders. And so in the moment, I would again bring, what are you thinking about? What are the thoughts? What is the anxious feeling? And start working with energy. When we realize that it's all energy, everything is energy, and we're the managers of the energy. We are the ones that are managing the energy. So we get to choose our thoughts. We get to feel, we get to choose our emotions. We have to remember too that a negative thought attaches to an emotion and attaches to then how we're thinking and behaving. So when we can learn that no, I don't want to go down this rabbit hole. I don't want to believe these things or think these things. Right here, right now, I'm safe. What can I do right now to make me feel better? What can I do right now? Maybe it is going for a walk. Maybe it is listening to some music. Who knows what it is? Maybe it's talking to a friend, something like that. What will make you feel better? And going back to your person that has negative family members, when you're living in the same household, it's difficult. I'm not going to lie. that
Mhm.
that part is hard. That part is hard because you really have to protect yourself and carve yourself out some space to shield yourself from the negativity. And that's what we know, how hard that is when you're walking into a room and people are negative, and why when you turn on the news and it's negative. And
Mhm.
so, are your thoughts negative? And what is it that you can do to shield yourself from the negativity? And how can you stay positive during those kinds of situations? So, again, I would add with, seeing that, yep, this is where my family members are. They are being negative, they're being this way, they're being judgmental, it's being like this, and I don't have to be like that. And I'm going to continue on choosing to be positive. And I don't want to slip down into a depression. I don't want to let myself go. So what can I do in my space here that's going to make my life better? And sometimes it's maybe not even living in the same household with those people.
Right, and if she had her choice, which right now is not a choice at the moment, but it will be again, right? I instructed her the same way. It's like here they they are a certain mindset, right? They're a certain belief. They believe the propaganda they see on TV and all that stuff. And she's very cognizant of that, and we've discussed that. So she's able to compartmentalize that, has a beautiful, basement apartment in the home so that she
Mhm.
has that sanctuary. And
Yeah.
we've talked about our family because I've dealt with negative family members over the years. Um, they're our family, right? They're here for a reason to teach us lots of stuff.
Yeah.
It doesn't it doesn't mean then that we have to then be absorbed or have their beliefs or their negative Nelly attitudes towards us. We can then surround us with more positive, uplifting individuals. And that's the encouragement I give to someone like that, because they're thinking they're all by themselves and they're all alone. And yes, they're not looking at, why am I feeling that way? Is it because of what I just saw? Is it because of that horrible horror movie I just saw the other night or whatever? Because I like to do that. I like to analyze, okay, why am I feeling that paranoia? And part of that paranoia for us was we were being intentionally poisoned. I was cognizant of that and said, isn't that interesting how when you have this amount of, say, toxicity in you that you are aware of, how it really does affect your thinking. It really does affect your mood. It affects your thinking. And when you're cognizant of it, you're saying, okay, I know why that's happening. So I know, and I'm doing something about it. And I know that eventually this is not going to be the same. And you're starting to feel better just being aware of it. So that exercise that you help people do, it really is a game changer when people start to become aware of.
It's an empowering,
Yeah.
it's being empowered. It's like basically something is going on, and some of the thoughts that you're thinking that contribute to how you feel, because suddenly you feel sad, suddenly you feel anxious, suddenly you feel depressed. But then when you're looking at, like, what thoughts am I thinking right now? What am I feeling? In your part, why? Right? Is really looking at that. Well, what are the conditions? What are the conditions? And is this temporary? How long is this? That kind of thing, that kind of inquiry really is empowering. And I think that's a big piece. Another big tool that I would invite people to use, and that is boundaries. Put the boundaries up. So the negative Nellies, the negative people, the boundary to them is communicated that I don't want to hear all the negativity. I don't want to be part of all of this negativity. That doesn't work for me because I'm working on not being depressed. And so I need to stay positive, because otherwise that's going to spin me out. And that's a boundary. That's a healthy self-advocate thing that you can do for yourself, where you're like, that's a boundary. And even having a boundary for your own self. I was showing this to a client of mine yesterday, how I put the line in the sand, and the line, and that's the boundary in the sand. And first, the boundary is to me, myself, and how I absolutely refuse to judge myself or be critical of myself. I absolutely refuse it. Okay. And that is not going to be acceptable to me. So once I have that line, I'm not allowed to have those thoughts against myself, because that would be bullying myself. And I don't want to do that. The only thoughts I'm allowed to have about myself are true ones that are uplifting and sweet and honoring and loving, because that's the truth. The critical thoughts or the negative thoughts, no, the boundary has to be put there. So for myself, and then you get to communicate those boundaries also to other people. Please don't expose me to all this negativity. I don't want to be involved in this negative conversation, because I need to uplift myself, because otherwise I'll fall down into a depression. Communicating those boundaries, again, empowering, liberating.
And what's interesting, Cornelia, as you were just saying that, I was thinking of someone else I had spoken to, who was getting insurance for their son. And what was interesting, and I don't know if this is okay because I know this is a lot of controversy on this one, but it has resulted in so much depression and anxiety. And this is around these sex change. What I don't know, we want to call it sex change operations, or gender confirming, or gender affirmation, or whatever they're calling it now. And had a son, and who is turning into a young woman. But this was done, see, there was that argument, he didn't want for pre-adolescence to have that happen. And the wife said, no, that's okay. And the school was pushing it. And he said, really, they should wait till he becomes, all those hormones, from natural progression have gone through. And then when the person is 21, 22, whatever, then decide, is this for me? Do I really want that? Or is that something maybe I just thought somebody kept talking about it and everything else. So now that poor individual is so depressed. They can't work. They can't function. The father is supporting their child. Literally now they're in their mid to late 20s. And they're so scared. They've now got such a phobia. They won't leave the house. So they're afraid even to walk out the door.
Now probably the phobia that developed is called agoraphobia. They become agoraphobic, being fear around being around people.
But everything.
I do not agree. I do not agree at all with this movement of the transgender pushing. You said the school was pushing it. So I
pushing it and not even a full teenager yet. They're still 12, 13, developing body,
This is the reason why I don't agree with it, is because the school is pushing it. The government is pushing it. They're saying it's okay when the parent said, no, it's not okay. And actually you as the parent should have the right over your child, and you shouldn't have to be bullied by a government or by the school system to let your child do this when they haven't fully developed yet. And that whole thing. I just watched a podcast recently, probably in the last week. I had to look at this myself to see where I stand on this issue, because I want to really be firm in where I stand, and like how am I, I had to look at that myself so that I can be really clear what it is for me. And that's why I'm able to speak to you about it. I watched a podcast on Candace Owens. Candace Owens was talking. She had a person there that had the full Monty, the full operation and everything. And she interviewed that person. And there were so many great points that were made there that even helped clarify me even more, to the point where, no, I don't agree with it. I wouldn't want that for anyone. I would not push that for anyone. And I would want for the parents to really hopefully take control and let their child go through their full development phase until they're in their 20s or 30s, even before they have that operation, if that's what they want to do. And most likely at that point, because like you said, they're going to move into regret. I just actually know someone here in my community that went into this whole transgender thing and just, started announcing it to the people. And so then the people had to start taking those pronouns and using those pronouns that they were saying how they want to be addressed and all of that, which this is also not something I'm doing either. I'm not doing that either. And now just last week, I found out that person was trying to commit suicide. So that's what we're talking about here.
Right. Because this all ties into this depression, anxiety, mental illness that we're seeing. And that's another big part of it. So I point that out. I mean, he was aware of that. I mean, the dad was aware of that. It's just unfortunate that he had this argument. The wife was brainwashed by the school, and they weren't on the same page about it, unfortunately.
That's hard.
But what I did caveat to him, I said, because of the toxicity in the body and all that, it's very possible, I said, if he took a tox test, detoxify, to try to balance the body so that could be maybe make clearer thinking, maybe not be so depressed, not be so afraid. I said there's still hope that you can at least correct what's going on, and
Yeah.
that maybe your, i.e. son, daughter, and however he wants to, think about it that way, can start to function in society again.
Yeah.
I mean, there's still hope for that. And so, yeah, I'm also very cognizant of that affecting people. So I always encourage people, just, and I would love if, the former Bruce Jenner, what's the name now? I can't remember, but,
Caitlyn.
Caitlyn, yeah, Caitlyn Jenner, would say something about that, because obviously she waited way, you know what I mean, way into adulthood. I mean, that was not like a simple decision to make. Had really thought about it over the years. This wasn't like something that was, you know what I mean? I would love if she would say something about that. Like, wait to because I think that would be so helpful, to say, wait till you're
I mean,
past
the fact that you can
that.
have a transgender operation, but you
Right.
can't drink until you're 18 or
I
21.
know. Isn't that right?
There's so
Right.
many things wrong on all levels. And the fact that um, the parents aren't pushing back, or that the parents aren't on the same page, that's also another thing, right? I think what it comes down to, again, is each person really looking at what their values are, and, are they their own authority? Because, or are they allowing the pharmaceutical or the government to dictate what to do with your body, or how you should do it, and what should be accepted, that kind of thing. I mean, so it really comes down to, again, where is the level of authority at? Where is your level of values? What is it that you really believe in? All of that. And that all starts at home. It starts at home, and it starts in the family unit, the nuclear family unit that is raising these children. And the children are not be turned over to the school systems to, the children they need to be, part of the family operation, and what is it that the family wants to uh, encourage for their son or daughter, that whole thing, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, people, and I teach this, is to say, you don't need a doctor or a pharmacist or anyone like that to tell you how to be healthy, or how to live, and also to have some discernment. If you are getting help from someone to say, okay, to help with a health issue and all that, if what they say to you doesn't jive, oh, here, just take this medication to solve that issue, and they don't want to not dig into root cause. Let's check this toxicity level of your body. Let's see if that might be causing this. Maybe you need to do a detox. Or what is this happening? Are you being pressured at school? Right? Are you being bullied or pressured at school to do something that doesn't jive with you? If you're not doing root cause, then, I mean, I've thrown so many doctors to the curb that didn't understand that we were being intentionally poisoned, were saying all sorts of, and by the way, trained toxicologists at UC Davis, Cornelia, they don't know crap about detoxifying. We said, okay, we're full of this kind of metal. And they're like, oh, well, it'll go away eventually. I'm like, no, like, I knew more about it than they did. And it was just incredible, the amount of information that a person can arm themselves with and solve their own problem, but by not going to an authority who really is either untrained or uncaring, or and maybe they're just not getting that information, which is what we need to change as well.
Well,
Getting
I don't think it's that they're uncaring. It's that they're not getting that information. That's not part of the program. The program is to, again, what is the purpose behind their position in order to write prescriptions or whatever they're doing. Theirs is not they're part of the, I call them the old earth per se, where they're still part of the sick care system rather than the wellness system, the
Right.
healthcare
That
system.
too.
There's that. And so I just don't think they're getting the proper information, because that's not what they're focusing on. They're not focusing on the root cause that you
Right.
said, like what's creating
Right.
the thing in the first place. Just even with me, all the emotional core work that I've done and healed within myself, and helped hundreds of clients help themselves heal their emotional core wounding that they were carrying around in their body, so that they can be at the root. What is the
Mhm.
core wounding here for you? What is that? And healing that, instead of going to the doctor and saying, I'm depressed, I need to cover that up, that core wound. The bottom line is, we as human beings, superhuman beings, came here to feel, and we have to feel. And that's been part of our old suppression of everything that we've covered up, of everything that, even why does someone drink every night? What is it that they want to take themselves into a better state of feeling, right?
Mhm.
That's
Right.
what's underneath that. Like, why do you want to drink every night? Well, I just need to get into a better state. I just need to. Those are the kind of things. And so talking about this and giving resources on what you can do to start the process and how you can make yourself feel better, why don't we let the audience know how they can look you up and find out more about your work and what it is that you do?
Well, people know that they can find me on rumble.com on the channel called The Paladina. So if they go to rumble.com and they just type in the search at the top, the space Paladina, they can find me there. And there's a lot of informative, and it's not just videos on, say, detoxification from toxins. There is great information on how do you discern if someone's not being truthful to you, like, scammers, right? There's a lot of that going on. That's something else we can talk about, because a lot of people are getting hurt by hackers and scammers and everything, right? But there's great information on even just a natural childbirth. I mean, I've interviewed a retired nurse on natural childbirth that some people, there's great information that's been out for many years that I read about years ago that people don't know about. So I go over a bunch of different topics that are just so helpful in arming the individual, and especially on the spiritual side as well. I go over some amazing things of how people can feel protected even when there's danger around them. It's so there's great information there. There's information at heavymetalpoisoning.org if people just kind of want to know more specifics on that, since there's a lot of that in in the shots, in just basic shots now with just how manufacturing is, and get information specifically on that. They can go to thepaladina.com and get more spiritual, emotional, and mental support. And I have colleagues there that are phenomenal people in different areas on that. So yeah, those are the ways they can reach me. And Christina at thepaladina.com is my email. I think that's about it, right?
Yeah, you covered a lot, and you do a lot. You covered a lot, and you do a lot. I want to thank you so much for all that good work that you're doing in the world, and the resources and the tools and the information that you so freely share. And may all the people that are ready for this next level of healing and recovery and all of that find your work and find the things that you do, so that we can make the world a better place, because ultimately that's what we're doing here.
Right. That's
Right?
right.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So I want to thank everybody for listening and tuning into the Kornelia Stephanie Show, everyone. We'll see you again next time. Take good care. Thank you, Christina.
Okay. Thanks, Cornelia.